I was born in Northcote, not far from where I actually started in business. And then I think my father got more, he's got his chemist business going better. We moved to East St Kilda, Balaclava Road, East St Kilda. And Bruce and I went to Melbourne Grammar, which was a prestige private school. We had a pretty good upbringing. We had a maid in the house, and we had someone who took us, sort of a nurse that used to come in every day, and it was pretty good living, what I can remember. And then the old man went broke, as I told you before.
And it all changed.
It all changed, very dramatically changed, yeah.
As kids, was there opportunity to climb trees and get out and about in those days?
Yeah, oh yeah, in Balaclava Road, East St Kilda, where we lived, there was the gardens down the end of the street. Plenty of plenty of time for activities of that nature. Yep. We used to play a lot with kids. Yeah.
And what did you most enjoy about your childhood?
I used to love to go out and play. I can't remember what games we used to play, but we used to play. And it was good. No, I had a good, happy childhood, yeah.
And what sort of a person was your mum? Describe your mum to me.
Very, very proper person. Very, she would be a classic. She reminds me of Barry Humphrey's mum. You ever heard him talk about his mother? Very much like her. She was stickler for doing the right things. Very concerned about, the old story. If you had an accident, make sure you had clean underpants on, and that was paramount in her mind. Appearances, very important. How you looked and how you. Much more important than the other things. How you looked and how you came across, and yeah, very good person, very industrious, hardworking. Yeah, very, very good person, but absolutely engrossed in appearances and the outward, how you looked from the outside, how people would look at you, and. I suppose that would be a reflection of her, that how I looked was. Like if we had a visitor, we'd have to dress up like mad. And if I brought kids home from school, I'd have to give 3 days notice to make sure there's flowers up and all that stuff. That didn't matter to them, but she thought it was terribly important. So she's a fastidious, hard-working woman, I must say. But I never had the relationship with her I had with my father. He was a more relaxed guy. Yeah. My father was a chemist, and I used to serve behind the shop there. He had 7 shops scattered around Melbourne, and he had a factory that used to manufacture some pharmaceutical goods. This was in the 30s, and mainly because of the Depression and the arrival of Coles and Woolworths. They were selling proprietary lines, and they were employing staff at a cheaper rate than my father could. Anyway, he went broke. So my background was in a shop, and
How old were you when your dad went broke?
16. We were motherless broke. We really had no money in the house at all. Had to sell the house, and my mother was a bit of a socialite. We lived pretty well actually before all that, and she was sort of snubbed a bit, and family went down quite badly. Anyway, my father was a fighter, and he went about and selling insurance to business people, and sort of fought his way back into a reasonable income. So that was a pretty savage thing to have happened to us, Bruce, June and I. We sort of the result of the depression, and my father going broke wasn't a happy experience really, and left quite a mark on us, I think. Yeah.
And what was the actual experience for you of seeing that all take place, particularly given that you'd worked in the shop with your father?
Yeah, well, there was just no money in the house, and I remember the old man sold a whole of life policy, and he got £20, and we were all celebrating. I remember that quite well, yeah. So if I've got a frugal streak in me, Bill, it'd be maybe caused by that, I don't know.
Your father, you said, stood his ground and fought it out.
Yeah, he was a real battler, yeah.
And what was your relationship with him at that time? Because you worked with him in the shop, so were you two close?
Well, I helped him. I wouldn't say I was a partner exactly, but well, he never said I was a partner, but I existed in the shop with him, did little jobs, yeah. And I just liked the idea of being behind a shop, and I finished up being a corner store dry cleaner, yeah.
What do you think your dad taught you during this time when you were working with him? What did you learn from him?
Well, I think the fact that he was in business on his own, that he had his own shop, and he had to be on duty at a certain time, and he had to do it himself, and put me in advantage over anyone else who worked for whose father worked for someone else and just had a job. At least this was something he had to go in on Friday night or Sunday night, inconvenient hours, and I suppose that livened me up to the real world, that you know, if you go out and do something, you can get somewhere. And I suppose that, I'm not 100% sure of that.
But you were obviously quite inspired by the whole thing.
Sure, he was a great bloke. Yep, yep.
And you had the opportunity to see what discipline was required in order to make it work.
Yeah, Sunday night, a lot of people don't like working Sunday night, and he used to hop in there, and I used to hop in the car with him, and off we'd go till about 10 o'clock, and they closed down, yeah.
It's actually a real treat, I think, when people have the opportunity to, as young people, to work with their fathers.
Yeah, it's really homespun stuff.
Were you conscious that he taught you anything else specific about life and about business?
Well, he was a typical Scotsman. He was very frugal. He'd have half a cigarette and butt it and then relight it, and a packet of lifesavers would last a fair while. No, he's a very good Scotsman, and I was proud of my father. Great bloke.
And his ability to fight back as he did, and that whole experience, do you think that also armed you in some way for your future?
Yeah, I'm sure it did. Yeah, because he was really down. I mean, he had nothing. Bankruptcy in those days was a very bad slur on you, and you got nothing. And he paid all his debts back, and they did the right thing. No, I admire him for that, and I think that was a good inspiration for Bruce and myself.
Do you have any particular memories of your years in the Navy, or your time in your 18 months in the Navy?
Yeah, I did the course. I qualified, got to Ordinary Seaman second class, was ready to go, and the war ended. So a course that took 9 months took me 18 months, and lucky for the Navy and me, this interruption of the war, of my illness, chronic tonsillitis, stopped me from going to sea. Although I would have had a yellow card if I'd gone to sea, wouldn't I? A red card, is it? They get for everything's free, is it? Okay. I didn't qualify for one of those. Well, I left when I left the Navy. Looked around for a shop searched Melbourne suburbs for a suitable shop, and used to stand on corners and watch traffic counts and try to work out what would be a good spot. But fortunately, we went to the northern suburbs, into Smith Street, Fitzroy, and there was a shop there. And I'd heard that Foy and Gibson were moving over from the Collingwood side of Smith Street to the Fitzroy side, and they would be right next to me. Actually, it didn't happen for 2 or 3 years after I rented the shop. But I rented the shop, I think we paid £7 a week for the shop. It was a single-fronted shop with an old shed out the back, dwelling upstairs, and that's how we started. Put the cleaning equipment in the shed and the pressing machine in the shop, and away we went.
Now, at this stage, you're still 20 years old, is that correct?
I was actually 19 when I started. Yeah.
19 when you started the shop.
Yeah.
That's very young to start out in business on your own.
Yeah. I only got one regret. I'd like to have been a grocer, actually. Then that would have had could have had good results there. But anyway, that's the way it is.
Now, what appeals to you about being a grocer?
Oh, just being a shopkeeper and looking after the customer and that sort of thing. I like that sort of thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I used to pride myself a bit and go out and be quite proud to sweep the shop out in Smith Street, Fitzroy, and in front of the shop and sweep it and say hello to a few people. And I used to like that.
When you started thinking, well, I've got one shop front, that's terrific. You didn't have an ambition to build a huge operation.
No.
So how come that happened? What drove that and had you create such a successful organisation?
Well, I think just the fact that when we started promoting the business, it just went on its own accord, and you just couldn't stop it. Yeah, there was no plan to do anything. But I suppose when you advertise a lot, you think, oh, we might as well be over in that area or that area because you're going to be covered with advertising, so you're going to get a free kick there just because you advertise a lot. So you might as well be there. So it was no plan or anything like that, but it just happened. Yeah.
Almost like throw the energy in and follow your instinct.
Yeah, it was plenty of energy went in. I don't know about too much brains, but plenty of energy. A bull at a gate, I was a bit, yeah.
A bull at a gate?
A bull at a gate. I used to frustrate my brother a bit, yeah.
How was that?
Oh, he's a very straight down the line guy, really straight down the line. You couldn't get a more dependable guy, and I was, he didn't like me to do anything out of the ordinary or anything out of the ordinary at all. Like put a gambling agency in the shop, or like a tats agency in a shop would be abhorrent to him. So we had a lot of arguments about that sort of thing. And the pace we used to go, he wanted to slow things down a little bit, and I wanted to open more shops, and he would be saying, "We just slow down." I didn't want to miss the opportunities. No. When the opportunities are there, I like to take them. Yeah, it's sort of. I think that's true about. I find that now in our little business now, we have. If an opportunity is there, you've got to take it because you can't they just don't crop up every day. You just got to take it when they get in to get them. But there's a certain risk with that if you go too fast. Yeah.
So this fundamental relationship with your brother continues today.
Oh, sure.
In the existing business.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're not in partnership. We separated our business interests because of the complications as we got older. When we were not here, stop any arguments. So we do have separate businesses, but we're still in very close touch. Yeah.
Were there any particularly memorable examples of where you wanted to go and he wanted to not go and you had to work it out?
I can't think of any particular, Bill, no, but there was constant, no, I couldn't give you an instance there.
Were there any particular changes in direction that you took, that you two discussed prior to making the decision?
Well, no, he was progressive. He didn't want to, but he didn't want to see us go broke. And he used to control me a bit. I remember during the Poseidon boom, don't know when it was, the 50s I think it was, the gold mining boom, and I would have gone in a lot heavier buying shares than he would have, and he certainly restrained me, and it proved to be right. So if it wasn't for him, I mightn't be here today. You know, I'd be somewhere else. Yeah.
The fire at Northcote plant, was that, how were you notified of that, and what was your experience at the time?
I was overseas at the time, and I just hopped on the plane. I was back in 24 hours, and to see the devastation, yeah, pretty bad. Shocking reaction, yeah, it was a disaster, yeah. We were out of business for a while there, a few days we were out of business. And then we had to, the cleaning section of the Northcote plant was savaged, but the pressing and the dispatch area was there, so we sent our cleaning out to other cleaners. God knows what they did it for us, but they did. And then we bought a disused picture theatre in Station Street, Fairfield, where we dispatched the stuff to and sorted it out, and our trucks went down there and picked it up and delivered it to the shops. But the whole thing was so slow that we were losing trade. We were losing ground, but it wasn't disastrous. But we did lose a bit of ground there.
But there was a moment there when you thought you might be gone, I guess.
Oh, when I first saw the fire, yeah, the result of the fire, yeah, that was, I couldn't believe it. It wasn't a very happy plane trip home, I tell you. I was always nervous of fires. Fires were a big problem in dry cleaning plants, and there was a fear. And when it happened, I couldn't believe it.
Do you think you had a bit of shock?
Yeah, certainly shock, yeah. Oh. No, it was a very bad thing to happen.
How long did it take you to compose yourself?
Can't remember, Bill, but well, it's nothing. You had to just get stuck into it and get it fixed.
Yeah. Sort of reminiscent of your dad going broke, and then he just rolled up his sleeves and got on with it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bruce was home, and he started the ball rolling on getting things organised. By the time I got back, he was well on the way to having it organised. So he was there. Yeah, Bruce was right there.
In the long term, was there any upside from the fire?
Yeah, I think we promoted harder, worked harder. Yeah, we had ground to make up, so we went in harder. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but it's definitely sharpened us up again. And my first wife, Audrey, was a shop girl in my second shop at 410 Smith Street, Collingwood. That's on the opposite the old McRobertson's factory. And she was a young schoolgirl from McRob High, and anyway, she worked in the shop there, and anyway, we got married. Yeah, that's my first wife. Yeah. Had 3 children with Audrey.
Give me a thumbnail sketch of the 5 kids. Just tell me about their character and what sort of people they are.
Peter, our eldest boy, is a wonderfully unselfish lad. He spends a lot of time working for other people, prisoners overseas. He's very sympathetic to that cause. People in adversity, wherever they may be, he's there. he'd like to be a politician. He hasn't made it yet. He's sat for the last the federal seat of Corangamite last election and lost. Will be trying again in 2007. He's now Mayor of Geelong, was Deputy Lord Mayor of Melbourne, and his career is he's a lawyer, and not that interested in business. He's very interested in the community, and has a very strong sense of community, and just a very good citizen, I'd say. Yeah. Even though he's my son, yeah. Next child, Nanette. Good girl, very good girl. Unfortunately, lost her husband 7 years ago in a tragic heart attack. He was in Canada. He was a performer. She's got 2 kids. Does a great job raising those 2 kids. Is not married again. And she's a great girl, yeah. Susie, my 3rd child. These are the 3 children by Audrey, who, by the way, died. She, at the age of 26, I think. Anyway, a tragic operation on her nose that didn't work out. Not that she was a very healthy girl. Then the next, Susie, she's does a very good job. Got 3 lovely boys, and does a very good job supporting her husband, who's a liberal possible politician. Big worker for the Liberal Party. She's just a very, very supportive, good girl. Richard is a successful urologist in the city of Ballarat. Travels the world every year, keeping up to date in the urology field of medicine. Very, very clever, very astute chap. And Ian is always been an outstanding sportsman. Could have been a professional golfer, cricketer, footballer, or was a professional footballer. Played state seconds in the cricket, and would have gone on to state cricket, and who knows. Great hitter of the cricket ball. Never seen a better hitter. Very good footballer, huge kick, fast. Played some great games for Collingwood and Essendon, and was plagued with injuries, broken ankles, broken knees, everything. He had every injury known to mankind, and probably didn't get the best out of his sporting ability. Still a bloody good golfer. Plays about twice a year and is on a handicap of 4. So a very good sportsman, just natural. Can throw a ball a mile, kick a ball a mile. I envy his sporting ability.
Tell me all you can about Jean.
Jean is we've got 27,000 people at Spotless, but I bet you there's no one that's harder to work with than Jean. If she's making a dinner party, she's got the place to make it, or she's making the dinner, she'll go off and make a dress. Then she'll come back and complete the meal and the preparations, and then she'll go up and do some painting, and she never stops. If she's sitting down in front of the television, she's doing knitting. She cannot do more than, she's got to do 4 things at once. She's the most active person, conscientious, and very good person to live with. Makes my life reasonably easy, yeah. Gets on my back a bit, but she's pretty good.
I sense that the frugality issue is still one that occupies your attention. You know, do you see great value in people learning to be frugal?
I've always said to them, when it comes to giving, I stop at nothing. That's supposed to be a joke, Bill.
Sorry, a bit slow.
I was asked the other day to contribute to save the whale or save the rainforests or save the children. So in the finish, I decided to save the money. Anyway, that's trying to be funny, yeah.
Just going back for a second, Ian, to your very early days.
Yes.
Were there any signs of what was to come when you were at school? Were you good at anything in particular, or did you pursue anything in particular as a schoolboy?
No, I wasn't a scholar by any means, no. I was very mad keen on sport, still am, yeah. Enjoy sport. Only an average athlete, average. Just about to make the first team, but just on the borderline, yeah.
Okay.
Never in the league footballer class, no. But
how did your teachers regard you?
Don't think they would see a great successful future when they looked at me, no. More likely to reseed than succeed, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
So you.
I was never a senior boy at school or anything like that. I was never appointed to be a leader or anything like that. No. Yes. Yeah.
So your success is.
Well, I'm not. Yeah. I didn't say success. You did. Yeah.
No. Well.
Yeah.
Okay, but your teachers might have been surprised by what was to follow.
Could have been. I don't know, but I imagine they would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wasn't top of the class, that's for sure.
Did you carry into adulthood with you a sense of wanting to prove to them that you could do something?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, probably did. Yeah. Perhaps I thought I wasn't recognised enough. Yeah. Probably a little insecure in the early days. Probably insecurity does make you a bit more ambitious. Yeah, I would think. Not being a psychologist, but
but the need to prove something.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think if you're a lay-down success at school and somehow you've done it all, haven't you? You sort of might start kidding yourself a bit then. I certainly had no illusions in my early days, I'll put it that way.
Have you surprised yourself?
Yes. I've got no regrets about what I've achieved, or I don't like the word achieved, but the bit of good luck I've had, I'm very grateful for. I think I can never say, geez, I wish I'd done that, or I'd I wish I can never complain that I haven't got the best out of my life, in a business sense anyhow, and my family too. I mean, I have no complaints at all. Yeah, I've been very lucky.
If your dad was able to look down now and see what you've created and what became of it all, what would his view be?
Well, what I've created, but yeah, we'd say very well. We'd be very happy. He would have to be happy. Yeah, he would definitely be happy. Yeah, yeah, which would hope he can see it now, but I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I don't think he can see it now. No.
You don't?
No.
You don't believe in an afterlife?
No, not particularly, no.
Okay.
No.
What you see is what you get.
I think so.
Are you religious?
No, I'm not, Bill, no.
Okay, good.
Yeah. That's good, did you say?
Well, good as I got an answer. What would your father be most pleased about, do you think?
That we've just, well, I'm sure finances were a big thing in his mind in those days. It was that I'm financially sound and got a good family, and I'm sure that would please him a lot, those two things. I've got a good wife and good kids, 16 grandchildren, yeah, which is all good. Yeah.
Looking and thinking for a moment about your grandchildren and the future, do you have any particular message you'd like to leave for your future generations for them to consider?
Yeah, well, I'm always talking about them to encourage them to start in business on their own or doing things on their own. And I think I'm having some success with some of the boys. I think they'll be the entrepreneurial type. I don't think they'll be. There's two or three there that are very promising. One is was captain of Wesley College here, which is a big school in Melbourne. He was a captain of the school, a real leader type, very capable, very organised. Now in Canada, doing a course, doing his engineering and Bachelor of Commerce course on an exchange. He's there for 18 months. He's a very good lad. I'm not going to pick out because I don't want to start comparing the children, but there's two or three others that are very, very promising, and the boys as they get older. Yeah.
And you'd like to see them become independent operators?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
And is there anything in
I
particular?
don't see much future the other way. Yeah.
What constitutes success? How do you measure a person's success?
Yeah, well, my measurements are probably wonky. Well, there's financial success, there's domestic success, there's whether you're happy with your family. Yeah, I've been very lucky with all those things. Yep. And
they're the key measuring sticks.
Yeah, I suppose I should do more for the community than I do. But
Why do you say that?
Well, I've had a slightly selfish life, I imagine. I'm looking after self-interest fairly strongly. I'm under enormous pressure from my wife to do more things, and I probably will. Probably put back more, but I've got to start.
Are you still interested in generating new projects for yourself? I know you've got your existing business still going, but new projects?
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Yeah? And where would you like to go with that? What sort of stuff?
Well, we were very busy building south of Melbourne and also north of Melbourne. We've got fairly big tracts of land, and which we're developing now, industrial parks and housing and bulky goods shopping centres and showrooms, factories. We're doing all that sort of work on these two fairly big estates. That'll keep us going till I'm over 100 at least. There's plenty of work ahead unless something dramatic happens. Yeah.
Now, I take it you don't need the money, so why are you doing that?
Can't stop. I just enjoy the seeing that develop, and I've got such a good staff at in Glen Iris that I'd hate to let them down, stopping their progress, and they're all on a cut, and I just like to. I just do it for them, and I do it for my kids, and yeah. So I don't need. That's right. We don't need the money now, but it's still going ahead.